Hello, and welcome to today's student CPD session with a focus on time management. Something that a lot of students struggle with, especially when you have a variety of deadlines all appearing at the same time. As an English literature teacher who is opposite the corridor or on the other side of the corridor to the history teacher, we both teach coursework subjects, and so we are used to having students line up and saying, I didn't get a chance to do it, I've not completed it, can I have an extension? Now, although that applies specifically to coursework scenarios, I'm sure that you've been in a situation where you've had a variety of homework tasks all appearing at the same time, all of them seemingly incredibly urgent, and then feeling very much overwhelmed. So today is a little bit of a discussion around different strategies that you can use to help prepare you to think about your time management, where you spend your time, and how to make the most of it. Let's get started. If you've listened to any of the other videos that I've put together so far, one of them has been about planning your revision timetable, and so this one is very complementary to what we're going to be talking about today. If you can visualize in a really straightforward setting, now this is using Excel, this is using Microsoft Excel to demonstrate a day-to-day timeline and understanding of what is happening in your day-to-day routine. If you can see that and be really honest, that's crucial. You start to see where there are pockets of time, where there are dead time, and where you could make more or better use of your time as well. So this was where I left off in the previous video, but what I would encourage anybody to be doing is, if they're starting to get to a stage where they think, okay, so I've got all of these things to complete, when am I going to get them done? Come up with a very simple but straightforward visual representation of your day-to-day routine. And like I said, honesty here is integral. If you know that you're not going to get up before 10 o'clock, then put it in there so you can prepare yourself and adjust your expectations accordingly. One of the other videos that are part of this series are thinking about working in time conditions and under pressure. And when you've got that sense of perspective for how long an activity is going to take you and stick to it, that's where the difference starts to emerge, and a lot of it forms part of our attitude and our perspective as well. Any student of mine will know that I'm a huge fan of timers and alarms and clocks in general. I'm always looking at my watch. I've got my phone with me as a timer, as a way of keeping track of time, and so I'm acutely aware of how long a time span is. I also am incredibly strict, so there is an expectation for you to achieve a fair amount of work in actually what seems or feels like a short amount of time. The reason for this is because it creates habits of working efficiently, and so I would actively encourage you to make this a part of your day-to-day existence. So if you want to do a big piece of a task, if you break it down to realistically how much time you can give to it, it stops you getting distracted. If you have a target, for example, to potentially read 52 books in the year, you realise it's one book a week, so then you're going to have to think about how many pages is that a day, and you need to break it down. Which brings us on to one of the other things that is very important for your time management. That is around, and I love this metaphor, how to eat an elephant one piece at a time. If you start to get overwhelmed, if you start to feel that you don't have time for things, it becomes a much bigger problem than it actually is. If you change the dialogue around your expectations and demands to, I can give this 15 minutes, sit down, set a 15-minute timer and work on it for 15 minutes, knowing that you have dedicated that time to that task. It also kind of gives you the image that this huge responsibility that you're feeling the pressure of, will be alleviated because you're being realistic about what you can do. Now, this is not an excuse for you to then start suggesting that, well, I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to spend 2 minutes on my essay. That's obviously not going to get you very far with any of your tutors. So it's often about prioritising. There's going to be another video on that shortly. And it's often about thinking of what the question, what the task that you're being asked to do, to conduct, is, and how much you need to allot that time. Reserve the time, focus on it, and get it done. Now, on top of all of that, you're thinking about the things that are going to distract you, which is why this kind of an image becomes really crucial to you. If you know that after you have done, and in this case your literature language device revision, you're going to get your downtime, it's less likely that you're going to interrupt your revision with your downtime. You know the reward is coming, you know that you've built it in, so you can concentrate on the task in hand with much more efficiency and better outcome. One of my favourite things to do is write lists, and listography is this very popular at the moment way of approaching life, not even with tasks but with a lot of things. And this is just an image taken from the website of all of these different resources that you can now do by putting them into a list. So the aim is that you might have, for that one, music listography, so there would be a list of music that calms you, a list of music that energizes you, a list of your first music, your most recent music, but you're putting it all into a system that is organized and that you understand and that is useful to you. The same applies for your works. I live and die by lists, and I'm very satisfied to be able to cross something off once I've achieved it. This will help you when we look at prioritising as well, but thinking about time management, when you make the list of the tasks that you need to do, identify how long you are going to give to that task. So if you're going to write an essay plan, for example, realistically, that's going to be between 12 and 15 minutes. Set a timer, do the 12 to 15 minute tasks, reward yourself with some downtime. These are all different strategies that you can use to make sure that you maintain your organisation and reserve your work life and your home life, your personal life, and get that work-life balance. At the end of each of these videos, I always set you a little task, and this one is going to be something that is bespoke to you, something that's individual and only going to be appropriate to yourself. I would like you to write down the things that you are going to try and achieve tomorrow. So this can be something very straightforward. You could even put have breakfast on there. But I want you to start and identify how long you're going to give each of those things. Going back to that idea of how are you going to approach this, by identifying how much time you expect it to take, it should make sure that you move on quite quickly to the next thing. And as I mentioned in the video on planning your revision guide, if you keep those time spans short and manageable, then if something gets dropped along the way, you feel like you pick it up quite quickly. Make the plan now. Draw out your day-to-day existence for tomorrow. Then when you're doing it, have a look at how close you were to your estimation. Did the amount of time you spent making breakfast, for example, truly represent what you thought? Did you get up at the time you predicted? Make this a part of your routine, and so that you can truly understand different blocks of time and realistically what you can achieve in those moments.